There is nothing more damning as a player. Maybe some of the players are listening now are in their cars, and if they did train this morning or they were given the day off to try and recover. But many of them on that pitch were a disgrace to the shirt. And I don't think I'm overstating that. And that must be horrible for a player to hear, but I can think of no other way of describing it.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody knows this goes up to the top. And Daniel Levy's 4 years of increasingly poor decision-making, culminating in the, and I'm going to use a word that has a context wider, the insane decision to make Christian Stellini the part-time coach. But as well as that, though, you have to look at the players as well. You're absolutely right, because whatever they've been through this season, changes of managers, people dying in the club, the whole, everything that's gone on, in the end, you are still a professional footballer. You have to have some personal and professional pride in your performance. You say play for the shirt, Paul. I say play for yourself, play for your family, play for the 2,000, whatever it was, people up in the gods there at Newcastle. And to not do so, let's take one example, and there were many. Christian Romero, he has retired from professional football. He's won the World Cup and retired, hasn't he?
A lot of the Argentinian players are struggling a bit now, though, to be fair.
Not maybe quite as much as he has. I'm not seeing that in McAllister.
He's not even prepared to put in a tackle. But the Spurs goalkeeper appears to have gone on for a year too long. All kinds of things. But you're absolutely right, Paul. And the shorthand is playing for the shirt. But deep down, human beings don't want to be thought of as uncaring or cowardly, and yet that's exactly what it looked like Spurs were at the weekend. And Paul, I can hear that you went into a kind of numbed mode and stopped being angry about it. I'm not being funny here. My missus, bless her, of a certain age, and we're all on various kinds of beta blocks and things, she seriously, she's in the UK, she seriously texted me and said, please watch your blood pressure. And she wasn't joking. She said, I am serious. Of course, I was already on about 20 different pills by that stage. After the third goal, I just went to the bathroom and took whatever there was. I drank shampoo at one stage.
But don't players always do this? Not just Tottenham players, all players. I mean, look at Chelsea's players since Potter left, and they know Lampard's not going to be there they haven't won a game. They've lost every single game. This is when United, when they thought Ferguson was leaving, they turned it in.
The lame duck managers, you mean?
That is what players do. They shouldn't do it, but they always do.
And you're Andy, you're right to point that out, because let's be honest here. I mean, I sound like an old hippie here, okay, because that's what I am. The truth of the matter is, as demonstrated by both the clubs who played there, and if you want to throw Aston Villa into the mix, in the end, football teams and football clubs are a matter of harnessing energy. The positive energy of a manager who the players have bought into and the crowd admire and like what they're doing in front of them. It doesn't matter whether it's defensive, attacking, whatever. That energy is incredibly powerful. When that energy dissipates, you get the nonsense we saw at Newcastle. And Spurs, by not appointing at least an interim manager that everyone could get behind, have allowed that energy not just to be harnessed, but to become absolutely negative. And I know Pochettino with his lemons and all the rest of it, but there's a truth in this, that the football clubs, what do they, most of the players are equally good, unless you've got Manchester City's players. They're all equally good. The grounds are big, the pitches are perfect, all the rest of it. All it is the energy being organised from the top through the medium of the manager to go forward positively. And Spurs have just signally failed in that department, and not for the first time in the last few years either.
I don't have a great deal of faith, Danny, in this hierarchy currently. A, to make the right appointment, and B, even if they do, to back that appointment sufficiently and support that appointment sufficiently. So I don't just mean buying players, I mean churning players, letting players go, which have often been reluctant to do. I don't have any faith in this hierarchy again. That's why there's this sort of feeling of helplessness, because I don't particularly see it getting better anytime soon.
And the problem with that, of course, is you're in the absolutely traditional football supporters bind, whereby you want to support the team, you want to support the shirt, and yet you can't stand or don't trust the regime. And this is where we as supporters get gaslighted the whole time, doesn't it? You say something negative about the team, and you're going against all your nature and the traditions of English football fans. But if you say something positive, and say we should get behind it for Manchester United, then you're back in the regime. And it's a horrible, it's almost, I think I said on another platform recently, football fans, particularly of clubs that are failing, we're not supporters anymore, we're hostages. They've got us chained to the radiator, and it's horrible. And you're right, but the only good thing to come out of the last 10 days, Paul, is that where it has exposed Christian Stellini as out of his depth and clueless. It has exposed the players as gutless, but it has also exposed Daniel Levy. He's got nobody else left to hide behind. Paratici is gone. Conte is gone. There's just you, Danny, staring at us down from your perch in the main stand. And to say he has got to get this stuff right, Paul, is to state the obvious. What would happen if he didn't? I don't know. But there's no buffer between you, a season ticket holder, and he anymore. He's there.
We have to have a quick word for Newcastle. They'll be saying, what about us? To personally, I don't think they had to play that well. I mean, it was a bit like playing Blythe Spartans in the third round of the Cup, wasn't it?
I absolutely disagree. Blythe Spartans would not have allowed themselves... No, they would not. They would have played 4-5-1, and they would have not allowed themselves to be exposed like that.
Newcastle... Sorry, Danny. I was just saying Newcastle have benefited by the fact that Liverpool, Chelsea and Spurs are pretty awful this season.
They scored some very nice goals, but they probably won't have an easier afternoon. And in the second half, which of course Tottenham drew, they had a cigar and they didn't need to play. But we all know they were a good side.
They drew because they brought on Davinson Sanchez.
Yes, exactly. He made the difference, which is crazy. And,
he was their best player.
We all know Newcastle were going to play well, which they did.
Good for them. Good for them, of course.
Just weren't expecting 6-1. Anyway, we move on to Bournemouth 0. West Ham 4, an actual shock result. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if West Ham had gone there and nicked it. I personally thought it might be a draw in light of the fact that they'd played on Thursday night and Bournemouth was starting to turn it on. But that was, I mean, there's
great defending from set plays.
Yeah, it just completely fell apart. I mean, maybe they feel... The players at the back of their minds, we're back to the players again, feel they've done enough to survive now and just took their foot off the gas and got a bit of a shellacking.
I bet when they saw Southampton 3-1 up at Arsenal a few minutes ago, they weren't thinking we've done enough, because the Premier League, at least you can be said that most of the teams all the way down most years have got some really good players, and it's as honest in terms of effort. Hello, Spurs players. It's normally just 100% honest in terms of effort. You have to get over that point where you've done enough. But it's interesting you mention it, Paul, because I think that's what's going on with West Ham. They have done enough. Of course, they would want to. The kind of players and wages they're both employing and paying, but I think they know they've done enough, so they were relaxed. They are going to win, I suspect, the Europa Conference League. It's not what it was there for the likes of Roma and West Ham to win it, but I think they are going to win it. Their first European trophy since 1965. And so I think they were incredibly relaxed. But Bournemouth had a lot of possession. I mean, a real lot of possession, but very little end product at all. And of course, West Ham reverted. We shouldn't be surprised that Bournemouth haven't been great underneath high balls all season, set piece. But don't forget, last season, West Ham were the absolute kings of this, and they just reverted to type a little bit.
I think that's right. But they're going to lose their best player at the end of the season, it looks like that. So, do they keep Moyes? Is it attractive for a new manager? It's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Look, I was thinking this about Spurs over the weekend. Who would want to manage them? Who would want to play for them? And the answer is, of course, everybody. Same with West Ham. If you're playing or managing in Spain, Italy, Holland, where we places where we drag our personnel from these days, the pay rise just to go to a middle-ranking Premier League team is huge. And most professional football people, if you talk to them frankly, with the lights down low, they'll tell you that it's all about the cash, and they need to get those contracts under their belt in what is, for most people, a relatively short career. So I take the point about replacing Declan Rice, but there's never a shortage of people queuing up to go to Premier League clubs.
talkSPORT.